On your feet! Get them going!
Oh. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, whatever the case may be. Welcome to another Monday episode of Cross-Examinations, the Deconstruction Zone. Damn it. The Reconstruction Zone. Sorry, that word just doesn't roll off your tongue quite as easy, does it? Anyways, welcome. Welcome. Come on now. Hi, everyone. My name is Mike S. Miller. I'm not a pastor, priest, rabbi, theologian, scholar. I never, pastor, priest, rabbi just rolls off the tongue. Maybe I just say, I'm not a pastor, priest, rabbi. Welcome to blah, 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 blah. What's up, King Bob? Tina T, without lies, Islam dies. Tanner, rolling on in here today. What's on the tableau today? What is on the table? Is that? Look, I bought trays to organize my colors. So I gotta lift them up all at once. Oh yeah, it's a bunch of different trays, so I can pull out one color. I am organizing. Yeah, boy. Of course, now I'm not doing that much whatnot. So, what the heck? Before I had them in like this thing and this thing and sorry. Very nice, very organized. I know, I was at the Japanese dollar store. Well, it's not a dollar store. $2.25 store. It's called Daiso, and they have so much just little Japanese knickknacks and paddywhacks and giving dog bone and stuff like that. What else did I get? I got a paper cutter. I've got a paper cutter, and I practiced on a sheet of 11 by 17 Bristol and cut. Oh my gosh, such a time saver. Now that I'm not doing whatnot that much anymore. Sometimes you wonder why you do things. Let's see. Question: how much does it take to commission you to draw me a picture of the Smallville Superman? Like on a blank or on a 9x12, or what exactly do you want? It varies, you know. Blanks, it would be $250. I think I have a Superman blank I could do it on. Yeah, it depends on size. Usually on 9x12s I charge more, but on whatnot I've also been doing $250. But I do draw it a little bit. I don't fill up the entire page on the. So I could do $250 on the 9x12 too. If you'd rather hang it, you know what I mean? Yay, paper cutter! I love the supplies. I know, right? The 100 yen store was in the best stores when I lived in Japan. So much good stuff. It was Daiso, right? Because Daiso's from Japan, and back then it would have been a dollar store. It would have been a dollar store back then. Oh my god, I gotta turn this fan on. Oh, I also bought some more paper cutters, you know, like the little. Never mind. You don't need to know all the stuff I bought at the dollar store. I mean, at Daiso. But we have a new one actually opened up relatively close to our house, so that was like nice, because before I'd have to drive all the way to Claremont to go to Daiso. And so therefore I almost never did. But yeah, dude, this place has like everything. It's got it had fishing supplies. It had pet store stuff. It had cookware. We got a tiny little Teflon pan, like about this big, for cooking like one egg at a time. What's up, Justin? Welcome, Justin the Unicornist. I answered that guy on his channel and in the Discord. He posted a guy who's like saying that God was lying, just like the atheists do. They come in here and say, "Was God lying about saying in that day?" And then he talks about in that day, and to the Father a day is as 1,000 years, which is repeated more than once in Scripture. Um, and saying, yeah, but that doesn't work because it's poetic or whatever. Yeah, if you're just gonna you're just gonna use that poetic language, it's like it's not poetic. God is outside of time. First of all, God's outside of time. Second of all, my other point was that he was in the day of God's rest, and I don't know if that's the stronger. I don't think that's the stronger argument, but like the first 6 days of creation, I believe they were 24-hour days because of the delineation point that in the evening and the morning were the first day. In the evening and the morning were the second day. In the evening and the morning were the third day. In the evening and through the 6 days. The seventh day, it does not put that delineation. We enter into God's rest on the seventh day. The seventh day has not ended. The seventh day is God's rest. We enter into God's rest when we accept Christ, right? So to God, and therefore, because we are in his rest, and we are in God's rest is the rest. And I'm not a biblical scholar with the blibbity blap, and I don't know every aspect of the Hebrew, but that's one way that I have had it explained to me about God's rest. And because of that, like, we are all literally in the seventh day still today. And I don't know if you would consider that eternal. Or, well, it can't be, because God will recreate the heavens and the earth, right? And when God recreates the heaven and the earth, he'll be working again. So his rest will be over, right? Does that make sense? That makes sense to me. If it's a new heavens and a new earth, God has to create them. He specifies that his creation, when he's creation, he is not when he is creating, he is not in rest. So if he has to recreate the heavens and the earth perfectly once again, like rebooting the system, that is no longer in his rest. So I think God's rest started the moment the sixth day ended. He stopped creating. He will no longer create until he recreates the heavens and the earth. This is the day of rest of God. Otherwise, how can we enter in? The Bible says we enter into his rest, right? How can we enter into his rest unless he never stopped resting, which is his day of rest? Is that a stretch? Maybe. Is it feasible? Is the question. I mean, honestly, the day is as 1,000 years. Is it poetic language? Yes, but is it feasible? Again, all these things are different ways it explains why when God was giving him a warning, he was just being dire. Dan's point was that Adam didn't die immediately, but nothing in the Bible implies he had to die immediately, just as he will die, guaranteed. Also, the Bible says that we are spiritually dead. Was Adam born spiritually dead? Or did he spiritually die upon sin?
Oh, that should be pretty easy.
I don't know. There's a bunch of different ways to go about this. I guess we annoy God on his vacations. Are you reconstructing atheists here? Yes, that is the idea. B.S. Lewis. Funny name too. It's very witty. Very witty, B.S. And welcome to Cross Examinations. If you have a question, I am a Bible-believing, born-again Christian. I'm not a pastor, priest, rabbi, theologian, or scholar. But I have been debating this topic for 30 years. So if you're down, if you got a challenge, you got something you think will destroy my faith, hit me. I want you to hit me. Yeah, I also saw that guy. That was the first time I seen that guy's videos, but I saw it pop up. He said but it was a 40-minute long video, and I just saw it before I came out, so I was gonna watch it. Destroying the shoot. What did it say? Let me go back. No, not that one. Debunking Slavery Apologetics. And I was like, oh, I gotta watch that one. Because as you guys know, none of those guys, nobody, they all give the atheists, the people who are trying to use slavery as a gotcha for Christians, they all give them too much rope by not forcing them to prove axiomatically that slavery is evil. You have to put the onus on them. Prove it. And then you don't believe in evil. You don't believe in objective morality. So how then can you claim axiomatically that slavery is evil? Prove it. Do we all agree? Yes. Did the whole world agree 200 years ago? No. Did the whole world accept slavery wholeheartedly 300 years ago and all the way back through humanity? Yes. So therefore, I'm not approving of slavery. I'm not saying that I believe in slavery is good. I'm saying that you cannot prove that it is axiomatically evil, because the fact that nearly saving for a section of the world over the past 200 years, all of humanity accepted slavery as a natural part of life. Just a natural part of life. Oh, that's easy. Slavery is bad because it makes me feel icky. Icky is my axiom. Spoken like a true subjective moralist. Subjective morality. Moralist? I guess it would be moralist. Right? Yeah. Let's go with that. I looked at a tree, and all I saw was a tree. I think that I shall never see a poem lovely as a tree. That's all I can remember. I memorized that poem in 6th grade, and all I can remember is the first stanza. Sleep is better. Sin spiritually separates us, but leaving God's presence would make a mortal man cease the eternal life connection. But the Bible indicates that we are born spiritually dead. Like all of us, including Seth and Cain and Abel. Right? We were born spiritually dead, which means we were born of spiritually dead parents. Which means remember. So when did the spiritual death take place? I cannot conceive of a place in the timeline where it could have taken place other than when they sinned. That has to be the spiritual death. I know that the language says physical death. That's not what I'm talking about. We're just talking about this separately. I cannot see a place. If you have some place between sinning and the birth of ask who was first, Cain or Abel? Whichever one was birth. It was Cain, right? Cain was Cain first? I don't remember. Mike, why are you digging a PR hole for yourself with all that slavery mental gymnastics? I mean, we know that what you are doing, but random people don't. Oh, because I don't care what people think of me, Joe. Truth is more important than my stature, my PR. And again, I truly believe that when an apologist or stinking Ben Shapiro, for Pete's sake, go into the debate on slavery, giving that the adversary of their debate the rope to hang them with. If you go in claiming that slavery is an axiomatically evil, then you have no room to stand on. You just kicked your own stool out from under you. You have to make them prove it is an axiomatic evil, which goes against, which is not. It cannot be. Otherwise, all of humanity would have made it illegal from the birth of humanity. All of humanity has made murder illegal from the golden rule, blah, blah, blah. Every religion, every city-state made murder illegal, made stealing illegal. Most of them made adultery illegal, rape illegal, lying immoral. Blah, 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 blah. You can bam, 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 bam. All these things are actually axiomatically evil. Every culture in the history of the planet, up until a couple hundred years ago, on this side of the planet, because of Christians, slavery wasn't evil. Slavery wasn't even illegal. Slavery wasn't even looked down upon. Slaves might have been looked down upon, but slavery wasn't. So you cannot, by virtue of the facts of human history, claim it is an axiom. You just can't. Therefore, force them to prove their case, and they can't. Therefore, you do not give them the rope to hang you with. That's why I do it. I don't have to prove slavery is evil, says Mozzie the Apostate. The Christian position is often that chattel slavery is wrong, but the God of the Bible condones it. The contradiction is illogical. Well, the biblical position is that stealing people, buying people who are stolen, and selling people who are stolen are all death sentences. If that's what you mean by chattel slavery, there's no contradiction. There's a difference between, and once again, everybody seems to think that Americans invented slavery with the African slave trade. This is absolute stupid nonsense. America, the United States of America, was the recipient of 3% of the African slave trade. And yes, everyone, according to the Bible, everyone in America and in Brazil and in Uruguay, Paraguay, I'm just going to name South American and Central American countries, Mexico, everyone, oh, by the way, Egypt, Turkey, all of the Muslim countries in the Ottoman Empire who got, I think, it's like 40 or 60% of the African slave trade. I can't remember which. According to the Bible, they should have all been executed for buying and selling stolen human beings. This is not the same thing as slavery on whole. Dan is a Mormon, but he separates religion from history. Well, he has to separate religion from history if he's a Mormon. That's a necessity in order to be a Mormon. Who is Dan? Oh, it's just some guy. It's in the chat, Tanner. If you're in the DM or in the Discord, it's in there. Mozzie, where does God say slavery is good? Right. Silas, Mozzie the Apostate. God does not condone slavery. He gave rules and laws on how people should go about one of the most common practices in the current, as in back then, world. Correct, Silas Burner, and welcome, Silas. I think that I shall never see a poem lovely as a tree whose hungry mouth is pressed against the earth's sweet flowing breast, a tree that looks at God all day and lifts her leafy arms to pray, a tree that may in summer wear a nest of robins in her hair, upon whose bosom snow has lain, who intimately lives with rain. Poems are made by fools like me, but only God can make a tree. That's the one, Tina. I did a little drawing and a little writing of that thing. I think it was 6th grade. And I totally forgot all of it except for that. I think I shall never see a poem lovely as a tree. I might have to memorize that. Adam and Eve were created without sin and flaws, their actions flawed all after. Cain was the oldest, Abel the youngest. Seth came after. Yes, Seth meaning... oh no, it wasn't Seth that meant... Was it Seth that meant, like, replacement or something? I can't remember. WTF. Hello, JM. Is adultery illegal still? Not in this country. The Bible never condones it. It's like a parent that says, you better not drink, but if you do, you better do it at my house, though your parent says not to. The child still will do what they want. Though your parent says not to, the child still do what they want. Gotcha. Mozzie says, would you be my slave under the laws given by God in Exodus 21? You know the parts where it says, I can beat you. Would you be my slave? I know this is what they do. They want to change the argument from is slavery axiomatically evil to what about all these rules that let you do things in the Bible? See, you just shift that goalpost a little bit because you know you lost the first argument. Right? What are laws for? Exactly, Justin. Laws are to, first of all, make sure you treat your slaves in a way that is better than everybody else treating their slaves. Humanely, can you beat your slaves? I don't know. Well, see, here's the thing. Mozzie, my argument is that slavery is when you define slavery, it is the legal ownership of another human being, right? We all agree with that, right? And then people are like, it's wrong to own other people. Okay, parenthood is the legal ownership of your offspring. I can adopt people who are not my offspring, and legally, I own them as well. There's a time limit, 18 years old. Although in the time that well, not this book, but the time of Christ in the Roman Empire, a parent, well, not a parent, only a father legally by prescription, not by technical definition, by prescription. In other words, anything you could do to a slave, you could do to your son. Biblically, similarly, I think anything you could do to your slave, you could do to your son. It says, spare the rod, spoil the child. Now, beating has this very strange connotation. You're not supposed to be so ill-tempered with your slave that you do something like if you're like legitimately beating your slave, like you freaking punch your slave and you lose, like you knock your slave's tooth out. Like that's the kind of beating you're talking about. What happens? What happens, Mozzie, if you actually punch your slave so hard you knock a tooth out? Do you know? Did you read that far? The slave is given their freedom. You as an owner have broken first of all, you've broken the law. But you've broken that trust of steward and Stewie. As the owner, you are the steward of your slave. All right. And if you break that trust by beating them in such a way, like, I'm not talking about the kind of stuff we did to the African slaves. No, nothing about the African slave trade would have been legal under Jewish law, under the very laws you're appealing to. Nothing about that would have been justified. One question I always had: why do we have to swallow and or justify every aspect of Jewish mythology, aka Old Testament? Joe, I thought you were an Orthodox Christian. Why are you calling it mythology? You have very little respect for the scriptures, considering you're an Orthodox Christian. It's kind of weird. Considering what a slave was back then yeah, sure. Show the Korea clip. All right, let me find it. That's a great clip. Oh my gosh, I have to scroll so much. Why do you guys talk so much in the Discord? Holy cow. Did you just post it again? No. All right, I'm going to stop scrolling. You post it again in the Discord, and I'll see if I can grab it. I'm not going to sit there scrolling all day looking for a post. Atheists be like, I know. And the slaves in the Bible weren't like 1,700 African slaves. They were people who owed money and wanted to work it off, or they got in trouble. Generally speaking, yeah. There was no debtor's prison. There was no bankruptcy court. Right? When you owed somebody more than you could repay, sorry. Maybe that's why the Bible says, don't get into debt. Wait, does the Bible say that, or was that just Shakespeare? But that's why it's a good idea not to get into debt in the old days, because if you can't repay it, you just sold yourself into slavery in order to repay it. And that could have been for a certain length of time, or that could have been, permanently. All right, let's this is a great clip. I hope it's no swear.
Maybe you're right. But some societies like Koreans, they might have.
For those of you who have not seen this clip, it is hilarious. For those of you who think that America invented slavery, and I'm so sorry that you went to public school if you believe that. There we go.
Maybe you're right. But some societies like Koreans, they might have a God complex, but they don't have a history of oppressing another group of people.
Each other, right?
Are you fucking out of your mind?
Oh, they're swearing. Sorry.
What do you mean?
You don't think Asians had they didn't oppress?
Koreans didn't have slaves. We didn't fly.
Did Koreans have slaves?
Yeah, Google that.
Yeah, because I think that's fucking wrong.
Somebody built them pyramids. It wasn't just somebody like, we're going to...
Korea had the longest unbroken chain.
Korea
had the longest unbroken chain of slavery of any society in history, spanning 1,500 years. Fuck off.
That's what it says. Zoom it in. My eyes are blurry. Zoom it in.
Carlos,
I want to read it, all right?
Read it out loud, you piece of shit.
Get close. All right. Korea had the longest unbroken chain of slavery of any society in history. Holy shit.
You guys are fucking scumbags.
Okay, you sent me the version that was not edited. Come on, man. It's a Christian show. That's such a funny clip, though. What is the Christian position, then? Is it objectively immoral to own people as property? Is it objectively immoral to own my children? No one claims it is objectively immoral to own your children. And yes, you only own them until you're 18. But by every single legal standard, and you cannot name one that does not define ownership, that does not apply to the ownership of a parent to a child. You can't. Try. I've been arguing this for a while now. No one can make an argument. Well, it only lasts till you're 18. Well, that's fine. That's up until they're 18. And again, like I was saying, in Roman law, the father owned the children until they died or they emancipated. And the children, because they were owned, were not allowed. Okay, actually, that's a good argument for current day America. A child can emancipate themselves if what? If daddy took their DS away? No. If you can prove that your parent is being a bad steward, abusing or whatever like serious abusive, like bad parenting. I don't know. I've never emancipated myself. So you can emancipate yourself, but like in Roman law, you could not emancipate yourself. The father had the right to emancipate you. In other words, I don't want to be legally responsible for this person anymore. When you are legally responsible for another living creature, that is called ownership. Legally responsible. I have to care for this person. I have to house them, feed them, keep them alive. Anything they do, I am legally culpable for. If they steal someone else's car and drive it into my neighbor's house, I have to pay for it. That is called ownership. So is it objectively immoral to own people as property? What does as property even mean? What is the legal definition of property? That you're responsible for it. That you can claim it as your own. And that you are legally responsible for it. That's property, right? Same thing applies to kids. And you can't show me how it doesn't. It sounds to me like it's not immoral to own slaves. So the American slave trade was fine. No, because the slaves were stolen. Exodus, I think it's 20, 21, 22, when dealing with slaves. It says, if you steal another person, you're to be put to death. If you sell a stolen person, you're to be put to death. If you buy a stolen person, you're to be put to death. So nothing about the slave trade was fine, the African slave trade. Tina's birthday is Thursday. When is my birthday? My birthday is a week from tomorrow, Tuesday. So we are, but Tina, that makes you, are you a Virgo? I know this signs thing is stupid, but I'm like right there on the cusp. So I'm always like, it's easy for me to say if someone's a Virgo or a Leo. The rest of it, I have no idea. Wait, May, Taurus? Because my brother's in May. It's like birthstones. You know the one you're on. Peridot. But you know, I was like, unless you're like one of these people who's all into that crap, then you don't know. Silas says, Mozzie the apostate. Slaver back then was more like indentured servitude. Oh, slavery. You were more like an employee. The African slave trade, as well as others in history, treated slaves horribly. That is wrong. Yeah, so it's not about owning other people. That is the rope I want to take away from the other side of the argument. The issue isn't owning other people. The issue is how you treat other people. Is it bad that I own my son? No. If I beat my kid, didn't feed him, and kept him locked in his room, would it be bad? Yes. It's the behavior. It is the treatment of my son that is good or bad. That I own him legally. That's everyone in the history of planet Earth who's had a child. The majority of slaves in the Bible lived better lives than any normal human. So if this was 1000 BC and I was starving in the streets, yeah, I might want to be your slave back then. Yeah. Like legitimately, if you were like broke and just couldn't do anything, it's like, man, I need a job. If I go and I work for, I had a guy. I wasn't legally responsible for him. But we had a deal where he could live in the room in my garage if he did whatever I wanted him to. I didn't even have to feed him. Actually, I did feed him, but that's not the point. I gave him a place to stay. And he was a handyman. And he was just out of luck with his wife, so he had nowhere else to stay. So I let him stay in the room in my garage. And I didn't make him. But the deal was he did whatever I wanted him to do around the house. It would be very much like that, except that you were also obligated to feed and clothe, right? It's like, I wasn't out there like cracking a whip and making him, jump through hoops and stuff. It's like, oh man, I need the front thing trimmed. All right, he goes out and he trims it. Oh, I need the thing. I need you to build this thing. I need to do this thing. All right. Honestly, it's like, is that hard to take care of a household? I mean, if you had the luxury about, like, if you were a slave owner back then and you had like a bunch of slaves, unless you were running a business, what's his name in Gladiator? He was Maximus's slave, right? And Maximus is talking to him, and he's like, "Are you happy? Right? You're my slave. You're my slave. Everyone has slaves." And he said, he's like, "Are you happy? Are you fulfilled?" He was asking his slave because his slave was his friend. And he says, some of the time, he says, most of the time I do what I want to. The rest of the time I do what I have to. That's slavery, right? That, because most of the time, what was his name? Al did whatever he wanted to. It's like I had a slave. Most of the time, Al did whatever he wanted to. Some of the time, I had something for him to do. And that was like one guy. I had one guy, right? And then you could have like, it's like this weird idea that slaves are just constantly, unless you're like I know that I don't want to sit here and talk about the American slave trade, because the American slave trade was horrible, and they put them out in the fields and they made them do horrible, horrendous thing. And then they freaking, well, we see all the worst parts in like Roots and whatnot, but there were slaves, believe it or not. Read your history books. Even in the American system, which again should have been completely illegal biblically, but even then you had slave owners who weren't like you had slaves who chose to stay with their slave owners after they were freed, after emancipation. In the old days, that's called an indentured servant. It's called a bond servant. Adoption is literally the purchasing of humans sold by private sellers or the government. Yeah, but you're not, quote unquote, supposed to pay for it. But you think adoption is free? Yeah, no. That's like, it's like going to Humane Society. I'm not comparing adoption to them. I am comparing it because I've never gone through a full adoption, but adoptions can cost tens of thousands of dollars. Where's that money going? Who's it ain't going to the kid. But it's the same thing like going to the Humane Society or no, better yet, going to a pet store. You go to a pet store and they have a little sign up. It's like, oh, you can adopt this kitty. That doesn't mean, oh, give me the cat, I'll take it home. Oh, how much is it to adopt this kitty? Why is that $150? Why do I have to pay $150 to adopt a cat? Where's that money going? Was the part of Leviticus where the priest put the blood of the sacrifice on the ear a reference to a slave piercing his ear to remain a slave? Oh my gosh. That's genius. I always wondered about that. I didn't even think about that. Wow, that very much could be. That's interesting. Wow. I'm like, what is that about? And you connecting those dots, that could be very, very. Slavery in the Bible is not like the African slave trade where they were indentured servants. They had a reason for being there, owing money, getting in trouble, or wanting a better life. Yeah. Why is Mozzie asking people to be their slave? Mozzie, your children are not property. Okay. You're using this argument. Leviticus says you can bequeath your slaves to your children as property. Okay. If I die before my children reach 18, you know that I can bequeath them to other people? Yes, that argument doesn't hold up. Kirby. Apostate. No, it sounds like you want him to. He is saying not in so many ways, but you keep saying he does. Yeah. Because we Yaki group, that's why we talk so much. Bobby Lee's hysterical. He is. He's funny. Where is the verse where anywhere in the Bible says, do not own slaves, do not own people, do not have unpaid labor, do you pass people as property, do not take sex slaves from war? I'll wait. I feel like you're not listening at all, Mozzie. The argument of ownership is the same as the argument of parenthood. And again, in modern America, I know it's different in different countries, which makes it a subjective argument, which makes it not axiomatic. We have a time limit in this country. There was no time limit in Rome, in ancient Rome, the time of Christ. Your ownership. And again, I'm using the term ownership as in there's no functional difference. Just because you put a label on this one that says property and you put a label on this one that says parenthood, the Venn diagram of what those two functional statuses make are hand in glove. They are identical. And again, in Roman time, in 2,000 years ago in Rome, that was for life. The life of the father owned, hand in glove, property, your children. Until you sold them off into marriage for your daughters, or you granted them emancipation, which meant you no longer had any legal ownership. Again, functionality. You're using a word that does not differentiate practical application. Can you comprehend what I'm saying? Because you keep repeating the same arguments I've already dismissed. And Koreans. I know. Well, hey, the Koreans are the ones that came over and enslaved all of my people and then became the Japanese. I'm Ainu, for those of you who are new. Ainu, also known as Niga, were the native indigenous people of the islands of Japan. I'm a native. And then the Koreans came in, enslaved us, wiped us out. There's only like 14,000 of us left. You cry about the Native Americans. There's only 14,000 of us. Well, Mike, even the proto-Christians were aware that it's like two different gods. Whole branches of Christianity started that way. I see my question made feel uncomfortable. No, because the Bible is not mythology, dude. The Old Testament is not mythology. It's not. We're not talking about the Jewish fables, as in like the Talmud and that kind of crap. We're talking about what's in the Bible. Well, we've heard it before. Oh, whoops! That's what I get for not watching and just searching you. Yeah, King Bob. Funny how theists are the ones considered not able to handle reality. Atheists apparently can't even cope with the basic facts about slavery. I know. You know why? Because it's their gotcha. They think this is such a gotcha on Christianity when they don't even comprehend that without Christianity having freed the slaves in the Western world, having abolished slavery in the Western world, without Christian morality overtaking the Western world in this regard and doing such a great job of convincing everyone that slavery is axiomatically evil, they would have no problem with slavery. Except for Christianity, they would have no problem with slavery, and yet they want to use slavery as some sort of a gotcha against Christianity. That's why I refuse to give them the rope that slavery is axiomatically evil, because it's not. It's Christianity evil. And even then, more or less, it's just not ideal. All right. I wouldn't even say it's evil to own someone, because I own my children, and I am not evil for owning my children. And again, you cannot use a subjective timeline, as in 18 in America, however old in whatever other country. It is a subjective timeline of the limitation of that ownership. If it is a subjective timeline, it cannot be an axiomatic truth. It is not an objective truth. I apologize. I'll do better. You better. Kirby says, to Mozzie, where in the Bible it says Christians have to own slaves as property to get into heaven? Sounds to me like you're projecting. So the American slave trade was fine with you. No, the American slave trade was wrong according to the Bible. Children are not purchased. Children are not owned and passed as inheritance. Again, subjective age limit makes it not objective truth. Again, if I die, I can bequeath my property to another human being, whoever I want, and the law cannot stop it. I could bequeath my kids to my mom, to my brother. I could bequeath them to a total stranger. It is within my right as the owner of that property. They do not have agency. They do not have the agency to say, I don't want to be adopted by Doug from across the street. That's not your right. You don't have that right unless you emancipate from that. If a parent bequeaths children to another human being, the other human being takes over the role of ownership. Sorry, I know you don't like facts. How many times Mike has to say, or the chat, that say not cool slavery, but you keep insisting it? Because they need to. This is their big gotcha. Don't you get it? It's their big gotcha, which is why you can't give it to them. That's why I refuse. Sorry. Guardianship is more than technically ownership. Deal with it. It is not ownership. It is called being their guardian under law. You know where you just lost the argument? You said, it's called. Now tell me practically and functionally the difference between ownership and guardianship. I'll wait. I won't, because nobody can answer that. Nobody answers it because they are functionally the same thing. They're synonyms. And you can use the forced doctrine argument that says nobody owns anything because anybody with a gun can come and take it from you and you no longer own it. Right? Of course, that's called stealing. But you have no rights that are not granted you by powers that are greater than you. Israelites, Mozzie says, Israelites were permitted to purchase slaves from adjacent nations. They took girls as plunder in Numbers 31. They were sexual slaves. Well, it doesn't say they were sexual slaves. You see, unlike in Islam, where you are allowed to just bone any chick that was your slave, anyone you owned, you could rape in Islam. I'm sorry, grape. Can't say that on YouTube. Right? That's just the facts of Islam. Go defend Islam, by the way. I'm sure you do all the time against Christians. However, if a girl who was taken, quote unquote, as plunder, there were certain rules. If they were married and their husband was killed, then they were allowed a mourning period. After their mourning period, if you fancied them, you were allowed to marry them. See, fornication was still illegal and punishable by death. Therefore, there was no such thing as a sexual slave in Israel. Really bad argument. No, I'm not into zodiac signs, but I am a dragon, the Chinese zodiac. Oh, just like my mom. My mom's a dragon too. I think I'm like a pig or something. I don't remember. I'm just going to ask Mike to start the stream on time for us. I'll try. This is a ploy to split hairs to incriminate the other's position, but when replied with more splitting of hairs, foul is cried. No, we must only define up to the point I say is right. Did you make him a eunuch? No, I should have. This is so sad. Rather than just be honest and admit you don't want to be a slave, well, nobody wants to be a slave. Nobody wants to be in debt. Nobody wants to be poor. What are you talking about? That's retarded. You lie about what the text endorses to save face for your God character. Condoning slavery is foul. Okay, then tell me, Mozzie. First of all, I need you to tell me two things. What is objectively evil? And two, how is the ownership of another human being objectively evil? That's your homework. That's your challenge for the day. You've got 7 minutes. I will zoom down to the bottom before the end of the stream to see if you can answer. Welcome, Doran. Like Doran Martel. Proximo. No, Proximo was the dude that got his freedom from Marcus Aurelius. Are you in danger of becoming a good man, Proximo? Ha! Silas, Mozzie doesn't want to understand historical context, in case you haven't noticed yet. No, we must not attempt to understand context. Your God condones it. It's either morally neutral or moral in your God's persuasion. Right. Right. Slavery is morally neutral. It is not the institution in and of itself. It is how you treat your slave. That is the global, historical ubiquitous up until, well, let me read. Ubiquitous state of opinion of slavery up until Christians decided that slavery, particularly in the face of the African slave trade, that is primary. I honestly don't think. I honestly think if the African slave trade never existed, guys like William Wilberforce wouldn't have been very upset by slavery. Because when you saw what the African slave trade was, you're like, this is disgusting. How can you treat other human beings made in the image and likeness of God like this? Right? This was a race-based evil institution. The American slave trade was a race-based evil institution. Once they started importing Africans. When they were only enslaving Irishmen, they might not have been so cruel, right? Because remember, Mozzie, the Irish were the first slaves in America. But yeah, honestly, I think without the cruelty and the inhumanity and the evil of the African slave trade, I don't know if the Christians would have risen up and ended slavery in the West. Good for them, they did. Although, I mean, you had the servant class was a constant in the world, everywhere. And no, Numbers 31 does not allow sex slavery. You cannot have sex slavery in Israel. You can marry a slave, and therefore she's no longer a slave. She's your wife. Let's try to keep this discussion civil. I know. It's not a I'm right, you're wrong. Someone has questions, I'm happy to answer them and clear any confusion. Thank you, Silas. The first American slave owner was a black man. True. This is accurate. When I say slave, won't let them go. It's not because you say it is. You don't even want to hear what is being said to you in the chat or what Mike's saying. It sounds like you hate God more than about slavery. Yeah. Okay, we got 2 minutes. I'm slide down to the bottom here and see if Mozzie could answer me about what is evil. What is evil and how is slavery objectively evil? No, don't see it. I don't. Does anyone else see it? Mozzie, did you not hear the question, Mozzie? What is objective evil, and how is slavery how is owning another human being objectively evil? Can you answer those before you keep going on your retarded rant tirades that make no good argument? There's nothing wrong with ethical slavery. I will debate anyone on that on my channel. Smokey! High five, bro. Take that rope away from these people. Take that rope away. I think Mike wins this one. Well, Mozzie can't even answer a very simple question. She keeps on saying, I think it's a she, Mozzie, sounds like a girl. She keeps on saying how objectively evil slavery is, and she can't define either. It's like, me make words out of mouth. Me no know what words mean, but me say they words. You bad man, don't like my words. All right, Tina, we will not see you tomorrow then. I can answer that. Evil is saying cup of noodles taste good, bro. Cup of noodles are so good. What are you talking about? What are you even talking about? Kirby says, Mozzie, so far everyone said it was wrong and gives you context when you move the goal, but in the past, then you get upset and come back accusing them, saying they approve. It's just ridiculous. Easy. I don't want anyone to beat anyone. Now you guys go. Do you think owning people as property is moral? Oh, wait, was that your attempt at an answer? Was that your attempt at an answer? Ozzy, you need to find a never mind. I don't want to say it. I'm not going to say it. In grace and humility, I'm not going to say what I was going to say. So God bless everybody. It's been an hour, and that's the end of the stream. Please come back tomorrow for the next exciting episode of Cross-Examinations. And don't forget to jump into the Discord. Yes, drop that Discord link. Also, by the way, for those of you who are like just now going to be like paying attention to Bitcoin because it got over $124,000, if you join Coinbase, this is me because I think everyone should invest in Bitcoin because the dollar is designed to do this, and Bitcoin is designed to do this. So this is just wise financial advice. This is financial advice. If you go to the link in my description and join Coinbase, you can read it right there in the link. You'll get if you deposit some money and trade $20. So like buy like USDC and then like trade it for Bitcoin. Coinbase will give you another $30 in Bitcoin. And it'll give me $30 in Bitcoin. And then you can all do that to each other and just take all of Coinbase's money. For legal reasons, he's joking. This is not financial advice. Well, look, for legal reasons, this is financial advice. I really, really suggest that you invest in. But I'm not saying for you to sell your house. I'm just saying if you go open a Coinbase account and then share that knowledge with other people, you'll get $30 worth of free Bitcoin. That's good. No, I can't get sued unless they show a loss. How can you show a loss? I know you tried. All right, no, it's not financial advice. Blah, blah. All right, God bless you all. We'll see you on the next exciting episode of Cross Examinations. Peace.